Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description.
In today's podcast, I want to discuss news out of the UK regarding another fine for the Big Four accounting firms. This one is for KPMG, and it's a near record fine of £13 million. The record is $15 million, and it relates to KPMG's review of Silent Night. And one of the partners at KPMG was encouraging Silent Night to go into insolvency so that another client of theirs, which was a private equity group, could help buy Silent Night without the accompanying pensions that the company was holding. And so it was a tribunal of the FRC that came up with this punishment. And KPMG has also been ordered to carry out an independent review to assess its policies, procedures, and training programs, and to determine whether similar breaches might be found in a sample of past cases. I mean, that's going to take a lot of time and work. And KPMG also said that they've changed the way they do things. They have broader controls and processes. But I find that hard to believe because the Big Four accounting firms have had the processes to avoid things like this, conflicts of interest. It just doesn't seem to be working. If they're going to avoid these types of situations, need to revamp their training. But I also think that there needs to be better training in schools too, of how to approach tough situations. At this point, I think people know the right and wrong things to do. And I'm just trying to brainstorm additional ways for how to avoid this in the future, because it seems every month, every week, we're hearing about new fines, new approaches, new regulations, new trainings. At this point, Big Four accounting firms, you probably have at least a few mandatory trainings every month that have to deal with stuff like this, and a lot of them are duplicative. So I think the ethical standards are there, the training is there. It's just, and especially since this is a partner, the partner should know the best. They should have the most knowledge about this. But I think that they think that a lot of the times they think that they're immune from this and that nobody's looking at them. But they don't realize when things like insolvencies happen that people will look back on it and people will file lawsuits. So that's something else to keep in mind. But I think there's things that need to happen in school of how to know whether you're in a bad, unethical situation and how to have tough conversations, the type of pushback that you will receive, the potential retaliation that you might receive, and how to deal with that. Because at this point, the way the system's set up is not working, or is at least, I mean, some might say, like, let's say this is a small sample of the Big Four accounting firms. Then let's go ahead and say that. But if we're saying that a lot of things need to change, we need to revamp the whole regulation, then I think we need to say that people need more training on how to have tough conversations around things that they spot when things go bad, and how to avoid retaliation. Because I can tell you that if you bring things up like this in the Big Four accounting firms, it's going to be hard for it to bubble up. Or even if let's say you go to a regulator with something, it's going to take them forever to do anything about it. So I think there's too many steps in the process, and there's not enough people willing to go through the headache to risk their whole career. They don't have the training on how to have a conversation, how to have tough conversations around this, and how to push forward. And I think the training, if people are actually interested in changing the system, which I'm not too convinced myself, because we just see these and it's a cost of doing business, and there's a whole insurance perspective to it that covers a lot of this. So I don't think people are, in my perspective, in my opinion, are really truly invested in changing the system. I think it's a small ping on the radar, these fines and a lot of these issues, because I think the big four accounting firms feel like they're invincible. And I know in the UK there's some dangers of them being split up, but there's something wrong here, and there's just additional things that need to get done if they're really going to change it throughout the whole system versus just trying to use government regulation. But those are my thoughts today on this fine. That's the update for today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast to get future updates. Check out the show notes for links on how you can support us and for other content that we have for you guys. Thanks for listening.